Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 7 Financial Strategies for Real Estate Pros. I am Cindy Bishop with Cindy Bishop Worldwide and would like to introduce you to Gary Garrison, your presenter for today. Now, for those of you that don't already know Gary, he is truly a brilliant man of many talents. In fact, he's my IT guy. And he was a senior level IT consultant for over 20 years and literally best IT guy I've ever had before becoming a full-time real estate agent. And he's been doing that for over 12 years now as an agent and managing broker and compliance broker for 3 regions, actually. But he's also an independent health, life, and annuities agent. Gary is driven to learn to better himself, believing in the old adage, knowledge is power, and he has always been driven to help others with what he has learned. Gary, take it away.
Thank you very much, Cindy, for all those nice things that you said, too. I really appreciate that. And welcome everybody to today's 7 financial strategies webinar. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't really feel that there was a benefit available to everybody, and certainly in our real estate profession. Being a real estate agent myself and having been a full-time agent and a broker since 2009, I know how difficult it is, and I know how important money is. And I've been grateful, I think, and blessed in many regards through some hard work and some right connections at the right time to be able to piece some things together. So here's just a little bit of information just to kind of get you thinking about where I'm coming from in all of this. So as Cindy mentioned, I am an independent health, life, and annuities agent. So please forget about anything that you've heard about life insurance and annuities and things like that. If there is information out there, most of it's misinformation or only includes partial info. It does so much more. And when I got involved in this, I did a lot of research initially up front, and my eyes were opened to really a whole different world out there. And you'll see why in a second. My specialization is really in asset protection and growth, which not just a personal goal of mine, but something that I feel is essential for all of us, especially the average real estate agent being 55 years old. We're awfully close to retirement age, and many of us don't really have what we need in place to be able to be assured of a nice, comfortable retirement, even if everything goes swimmingly, and even fewer of us are prepared for the unexpected. And I've been grateful over the last 30 plus years, to be able to help folks overcome some of their biggest challenges. And I do joke about the computer, but we all know when the computer fails, it's like the world is ending. So computer, we know as real estate professionals, the real challenges involved in buying and selling homes and the impact that has on individuals, not just from a personal standpoint, but from a personal self-esteem standpoint, but also from a monetary net worth standpoint. And I'm been blessed to be part of what's an $8 billion per year team, again, through some hard work and some good connections. So I'm able to bring all of that into what I know will be a value-added service for folks. And the real driver for all of this is going to be similar to what you've probably experienced either yourself or other folks have. I worked long hours in the IT career field, put a lot into advancing my career. I followed what I understood to be the conventional wisdom for investing and planning for retirement, which I now understand is really the 97% guideline, but that involves stocks and bonds, mutual funds. I took advantage of the 401k opportunities being in a professional field and excuse me. And of course, having company matching available to me. And I even did some of the investing, playing around with it on my own with penny stocks and different types of investments. I even worked with a recommended broker, a family member that had some success, had recommended someone. I'd worked with them. And unfortunately, during difficult economic times, I even experienced several job losses. But having started full-time employment working in the late 80s, and then here I am in 2011, unfortunately, I found myself transitioning careers. As I mentioned, I was at that point, I started real estate in 2009. So I was doing both jobs full time. I ended up with less than $4,000 in my 401k for retirement or anything else that I wanted to anything else I wanted to be able to do. That was because of losses, significant market losses in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2005, 2008. I mean, it was just crazy. And unfortunately, I was required to spend down my retirement money just to keep from losing everything. And on top of that, the government doesn't even have a plan to, if you're in financial hardship, to be able to use your retirement money that's in a 401k. So not only did I have to pay taxes on it, I had to pay a 10% penalty. So needless to say, at the end of all of this, I was extremely frustrated, especially knowing that, as you can see just in that little summary, all of the external factors I had absolutely no control over. And now I found myself in my early to mid 40s, 20, 23, 25 years are now gone that I've lost. That money is now lost. And it's because of again, somebody else. And then another thing too is a good friend of my father's actually named Barbara. And just to give you just a quick thing on Barbara and why it was so impactful to me, is Barbara was a sweet, sweet woman that worked with my father for many years, which is how I got to know her. And she was so excited when she was finally able to retire, so excited that she and her husband went on a 2-week cruise. Now, all of her investing, planning for retirement had been based on, again, what I now know to be what the 97% follow, not the 3%. That's the typical advice from friends, family, and even other trusted experts, or at least what she thought were trusted experts. Sadly, when she went on her vacation, she retired in 2008. And unfortunately, when she went on that 2-week cruise right after her retirement with her husband, she came back only to learn that she lost 50% of her retirement money due to the market crash. The market itself dropped over 30%, over 33%. And for her personally, that was a 50% reduction in her retirement money. So here she is, retirement years, actually retired, and the money that she had and thought was going to be available for her was not. So you can imagine just how devastated she was, and having gone through what I had gone through personally, I vowed at that point that I had to find a better way to eliminate money worries, protect against the unexpected, rebuild and grow our retirement money, be able to retire, maintain our desired lifestyle. I didn't want to just retire and live on bread and water or noodles. My wife loves noodles. So I didn't want to have to live on mac and cheese the rest of my life, like back in the old college days. And I wanted to be able to leave a legacy I could be proud of. I wanted to make sure the family was taken care of as part of that. And all of this was a better way toward a better life, or for a better life. And so as I was working through those over the years, the real catalyst that kind of put me and propelled me in this particular direction was a phone call from my father, who, as I mentioned, worked with Barbara, retired after she did, and he had been there for 44 years. And he had the typical big brand companies that reached out to him. Everybody's in the big corporations have pockets. And he was not at all impressed with what they had to offer. It was very disappointing. Most of what they were selling as true benefits actually really benefited them more. If he gave them $500,000 at the end of the day, you'd have $20,000 a year for 20 years. And he's doing the math on that, thinking, okay, well, that's my $500,000. Where did the rest of the money go? So after him doing some research and speaking with some friends, he had a buddy that had retired out of his office just a couple years earlier than he did, and had recommended he speak to the individual that I now work with. And the reason he called is because he knew I was working on improving our situation, and money was a big topic for me. I needed to be able to find a way out of following what the rest of the world was doing, because it just was not working. Too many external factors that I had no control over. And so he called because within just a 5-year period, he was able to see his retirement money grow by 35%. It had no downside risk. It was not actually invested in the stock market, and it was compounded, and it was growing, and it grown 35%. And as you know, the market goes up and down. So he had very steady growth. In addition to that, he had protections in the event that he were to have some sort of medical issue or if he were to pass, and hopefully my father lives for many, 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 many years, then he has still has money he's able to pass down, and that avoids the probate process. So major, major positives. This is what got me really researching and looking into this area. And so after I did my research, did my interviews, I realized that there was a better way, or is a better way, to be able to protect myself, protect my family, and to accomplish those things on my goals list. And as I've always done, if I learn something that I think is going to be beneficial for me, I like to share it. I feel that it's important that we help each other. I believe everybody should be happy. And I'm just as frustrated with misinformation and ill-intended advisors and experts that claim to do one thing but are doing something else. I mentioned I'd worked with referred and highly regarded brokers, and they were great, but only if you were doing a lot of business. So when we weren't doing a lot of business, we of course got forgotten, and then we lost our money. So I knew there had to be a better way, and I was grateful to be able to find it. And as a result, what I actually tell people that I do for them is I help them leap something easy to remember. And leaping is not in front of a train, off a bridge, or in a river. Jokingly, it's into money. But essentially what I do is I help clients identify and implement strategies using non-securities based solutions to create stronger financial futures. And I'll talk about what that is a little bit more later. But the reason non-securities is so important, at least to me, and I think for the majority of us as we get older in life, and it starts at a young age, but we're more comfortable with risk when we're younger than when we get older. It's that, as I mentioned, those issues with my money. If you take a look at the stock market, there have been 7 years since 2000. So in the last 21 years, there have been 7 years that the stock market's closed below zero. There have been another 6 years that the stock market closed with single digit positive, the highest being 7.5%. And if you take even the double digit growth that we've seen recently and divide that by the 21 years ending 2020, we've had less than 6% growth in the stock market over the last 21 years. I don't know about you, but I hope to not be working in the year and when I'm 74 years old, 21 years from now. And if I am, I certainly want to have better than 5.88%. I think that's what the math came out to be in growth. And I want to make sure my family is protected. So I specifically focus on non-securities products and services. Securities, your investments in stocks in the stock market, mutual funds, things like that. They're a high risk, high reward. Those are your security products. The non-securities eliminate the risk, still provide the reward. And there's a lot more to that. Why? Shockingly, percentage of people financially unprepared for retirement is just staggering. They come out with those numbers every year, and it's such a high percentage, 50% or more, depending on what category you're looking at. Percentage of people with insufficient financial protection is scary as well. Most don't understand what products and services out there exist and what they can actually do for them. And more shockingly is the traditional advice that we receive. I mentioned that 97% category. Well, that's mostly what we get, is at 97%. Well, the 3% or even the 1%, if you want to go that far, they're your high income earners. They're the ones that are financially secure. They don't have to worry, at all when it comes to money. It's the rest of us that's in here, follow this normal guidance, invest in this way, do these things, and you'll have prosperity. In the end, I certainly felt like every time I put money in, there was somebody on the other side taking that money right out. So traditional advice is outdated. The traditional options are too risky. Again, mostly it's that holy grail. If I put my money in the stock market, am I going to get 10% or more? As I mentioned, the last 21 years, it's less than 6%. And the other thing that was more shocking to me is that there are solutions out there that exist. They're just not being shared. And so that's part of what I want to do, because I believe everybody should be happy and able to achieve financial security. And particularly as a real estate professional myself, I really feel that the industry is misunderstood and we're grossly underserved. Even NAR's Center for Financial Wellness, or whatever they call that, is severely lacking. And again, it's supported by the big brand companies. And I also believe, though, that because we are in the real estate profession and we are commission based, that we have a unique position to be able to make up for lost time. So if we make the right moves now, because time is of the essence, especially when you're looking at compounding interest and growth, it takes time to do that properly. We have the ability to make up for lost time. Whereas if we were in a fixed income position, that's very difficult to do. That requires a lot of sacrificing in order to be able to make up for that lost time. The hard truth that it's very, very complicated. There to look into. I've spent the last couple of years spending a lot of time working on it. I've surrounded myself with some tremendous experts and tools that make it a lot easier, but identifying where you are, what you can expect, and then what you can do to improve that outlook, it takes time, and it takes the right tools and resources and the right people. And also, too, success is virtually impossible without proper planning, and as I just mentioned, sufficient time. And that's where I come in. So top reasons, I think it's this information will be helpful to you guys, is that it's difficult to be truly happy without financial security. Many divorces, I'm not sure if it's most or not, but it's a high percentage of divorces. And as a result of financial struggles, inconsistency and loss of income, major issues, cost of care due to illness or injury. Those would be unexpected things that will weigh on us, and of course, an impact on loved ones in the event of a death are all factors that kind of weigh on that financial security and weigh on us personally. Because we are a largely commission-based industry, most real estate agents, most of them are. Some have some other compensation. We have to recognize that we're especially vulnerable to changes in things like market conditions, policies, and health. I mean, even the market conditions today are great, but they weren't that way just a few years ago, and it will continue to change. And as I mentioned up above, cost of care due to illness or injury, that's your health is a factor. If you get hurt, you get sick, how are you going to be able to earn the same income? How are you going to be able to take care of your family? All of those, again, weigh on us. Outliving retirement income is the number one fear. So even with some very successful real estate agents and real estate teams, they're stocking away money as best they can. Still, outliving it becomes a concern. They don't have a solid plan in place. That money isn't necessarily doing the best it can for them. And because of that, they're likely to cut back during the retirement years, not necessarily maintain the same lifestyle, and none of us really want to have to sacrifice when we get older. Also, Social Security income will not be sufficient to live on. If you haven't looked at your Social Security numbers, I highly recommend going to Social Security Administration website and create an account, sign in, and take a look at what your numbers are. You'll be shocked, I think, to see where they are and recognize that you won't be able to live on those. Also, too, your earned income and net profit affects taxation of Social Security income. So a lot of people don't realize that. And I'll have a Social Security class in August. I think it's August 22nd. The class is scheduled for, but your Social Security is actually taxable, and 50% of your Social Security actually goes towards the calculation to determine if your Social Security will be taxable. And so if you're self-employed, earning any extra income, your net profit is going to count against that provisional income calculation, and you could be losing even more Social Security benefit. Medicaid, a lot of folks think that, well, Medicaid will be a lifesaver for them. Unfortunately, Medicaid does have income limits. And if you exceed those limits, we in the DMV area do have an option, but basically it requires us to spend down in order to be able to meet those to meet the income thresholds. And what that essentially means is that, say you and your spouse, one of you get deathly ill, Medicaid's the best option for you. You have to spend down your retirement until the bare minimum. Say, unfortunately, the next stage is the individual passes, and I know this is very difficult to talk about, but then the surviving spouse now has significantly less to live on in order to be able to utilize that. So that's not really an option to plan for. Let's see here, tax deferral programs will greatly reduce available income. I had mentioned before that 97%, the 401k was never intended to be used as it's being used today. It was actually a compromise between the federal government and the wealthy. So there's no, tax deferral is great on the surface until you realize that you're going to pay, potentially more taxes on not just the money you stashed away in the program, but on the earnings as well. Especially in light of today's world, where we recognize current income tax levels are at historic lows. They've been in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even as high as 94% over the years. So, and with the spending last year due to COVID, it's quite likely to anticipate taxes to continue to rise. Well, that money you've stashed away, if at the time you need to take it out, you're not going to pay taxes at the new higher rate. So tax deferral programs aren't great programs. They're not as great as they're intended to be. And honestly, proper planning is the only way to protect yourself. So what I'll cover, and it was a lot of intro, but I felt it was important to go through it. We'll cover strategies to protect, grow, and enjoy your money. Those should be I think the primary goals for all of us. We'll cover shielding yourself from the unexpected. I'll talk about some of the options for eliminating debt, protecting from loss of income, maximizing commissions to speed up wealth creation. And I mentioned before, the real estate industry itself, I think, is one of those industries because it's commission-based, where we have a good opportunity to truly make up for lost time and or simply take advantage of and maximize our successes. Strategies to remove investment risks. Talk about protecting your money from future taxes. And I'll talk about obtaining lifetime income. And then for a bonus, we'll plan for recruiting and retaining top talent, which many agents in particular, as you look to grow teams, may be interested in. Keep in mind, though, these will be general topics that I'll cover because everybody's needs and abilities are unique. It's just important to know that these options are out there. And if you have any questions, I'm certainly available to help answer those for you. So the first is shielding yourself from the unexpected. And this is something that I think that became more evident in this past year and a half due to COVID. Many of us feel we're going to live forever. We keep putting off a will. We keep putting off durable power of attorneys. Some of us don't even know they exist. We're not quite sure, what's the best way to do things. And unfortunately, we get hit by an unexpected illness. COVID was really devastating. Millions of people lost their lives unexpectedly, and the families just didn't have in place what they needed. Creating a living trust is a great way to help protect yourself and your family from the unexpected. That you can house your durable power of attorney over finance and over healthcare. These are where you identify someone competent that you know, love, and trust to be able to help take care of any financial decisions in the event that you're unable to, and over healthcare decisions in the event that you're unable to. Your advanced healthcare directives in the event that the individual that you've identified in your power of attorney just is either unable to or just decided that they just are unwilling to make the hard healthcare decisions. It's where you state exactly what you want done given certain circumstances. Your last will and testament is also a great item to hold in the trust itself. Outside of the trust, one thing to keep in mind is a will itself is more of a wish list. Traditionally, the will has to go through a probate process, and it can be disputed. And unfortunately, what we intended may not actually happen. Now, granted, we'll be passed and won't know, but we certainly want to do everything we can to make sure that our best wishes are followed through and our intent is followed through. So I highly recommend a trust in that regard to be able to protect your family and to be able to have more control over what actually happens and avoid the probate process as best as possible. And also too, you want to fund the trust. Now, many people forget this as a requirement. The reason this is a requirement is that most of your insurance companies won't pay. Well, they'll take 30 to 60 days. They pay as quickly as possible, but it usually requires a number of days for a death benefit to be paid. The death has to be verified. There's a process involved, and eventually a check will go out. And again, I know it's very difficult to talk about, but this is the reality that we're in. If you fund the trust, then there are very few products available that will allow you to do this. But when you fund the trust, essentially you make the money available immediately to your loved ones for your burial services, things like that. So, these are just some of the things that a trust can do for you, can really help protect you. For more information and for a free trial, if you're interested, go to this Estate Docs Pro link that's here on the slide. This is a great service that I have identified and partnered with through my connections that I've been able to establish over the last couple of years. And it's a tremendous product. It's far cheaper than working with an estate attorney. It's far more flexible. It's an online environment. It's secured. You can keep other secure data files and things like that in there. It can be a great place and location to be able to keep information accessible to you and your loved ones 24/7. So I highly recommend it. I highly recommend everybody do what they can to shield themselves, especially in light of the COVID most recently. Eliminate debt. Now, this is not a new concept for folks. So, some of you may not be too excited to hear about this, but the reality is that, as I mentioned, there's a traditional approach, which most of us follow, kind of fall under that 97% rule. And then there are other processes that other people follow. And when I say eliminate debt, I am talking about the big debt that weigh on us. Remember, I mentioned without financial security, it's almost impossible to be truly happy. Something is always going to be weighing on us. And it's not uncommon, even at our age, to still have, student loans that we're responsible for. Even if we have children that, had to take out some loans themselves, medical professionals in particular have high student loan debt, credit cards, car payments, et cetera. All of these things weigh on us. With the traditional process, there are lots of different ways of doing it. Most of them focus on sacrifice. And at the end of the day, you can certainly reduce the time and reduce the amount of interest that you pay, but you end up with $0. So you're now at ground zero, assuming you haven't taken on any more debt. And now you're at the point where you have to start to build your net worth again. You have to start adding to your retirement, adding to your savings. And the lost time is significant. As I mentioned earlier, compound interest, things that compound growth takes time. And every year or two that you lose is a significant year or two in the grand scheme of things. Did you know that there are actually services where you can pay off the debt and accumulate wealth with the same money? So typically we think of a dollar as you can either spend it or you can save it, but you can actually do both with the same dollar. And I can show you how to do that. So if eliminating debt is something that's on your radar, and it is for a lot of folks, and the traditional approach just isn't working with you, let me know. We've had a client that was looking at a 9-year, $50,000 plus, expense when you factored in their monthly payments and the interest that they would pay. And not only were we able to reduce that from 9 years to, I believe it was like just under 3 years, but if they were to make those same payments, if they were still to make those payments for the 9 years, rather than simply wind up debt-free, not only were they debt-free, but they would be able to amass about $115,000. So again, like I mentioned, there's some great programs out there, but they're a little bit more outside the traditional process to work. And I'd certainly be happy to share information on those with you. So the next topic is protecting protecting us from loss of income. This can happen: injury, illness, death, sadly. If you own a business that employs individuals, if you run a team, your key producer leaves, or say for whatever, say we go through another market change like we did back in 2008 and 2009. We want to make sure that whatever these external factors happen, that we're as protected as possible. And so it's going to be important to look at the right products and services to do that. We'll want to accumulate money without market risk that can be accessed through tax-free loans in the event of a loss of income. And that's huge. You put your money in a 401k, you can't remove it without being taxed on it, unless of course you pay it back. And even then you've got to pay it back in a limited amount of time. And still, and if you're less than 59 and a half, you have a 10% tax, 10% penalty, as I mentioned at the beginning on all of this. We want to make sure that we're protected in the event of long-term care needs, home care, terminal illness. And as for those, again, business professionals, we're all independent business owners, but not all of us employ individuals or have built a substantial team or business out of it. But those that have, you want to protect against loss due to income, say key earner leaves your organization, a business partner passes away. Most organizations don't have buy-sell agreements in place if that were to happen. So if you were to lose somebody tragically, unexpectedly, you need to make sure that you're in great relations with their spouse, because they're going to be the ones that will inherit the business. You have to make sure you've got money in place in the event the other passes in order to buy off half the business. So there are lots of things to consider. There are some great products out there. These are going to be actually insurance products. Most of these insurance solutions out there that, believe it or not, will allow you to be able to protect these things. So this is not just insurance. Most people think of insurance as a death benefit. There's so much more to these products out there than most of us realize. So speeding up wealth creation. Now, there are, in some cases, other items that could be available to us. And I wanted to keep this relatively short because I know everybody's busy. And if you're like me, probably you're ADHD. So there are other things available to us as self-employed or independent business owners, or even actual business owners, SEPs and solo Roth IRAs, things like that. There are some other options available to us for being able to stash away money and to be able to stash away more money than the traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs will permit us to do each year. But what I'm talking about here is actually speeding up wealth creation. So this is taking advantage of those, the unique capabilities that we have in our industry to be able to make up for lost time, or to be able to simply capitalize on opportunities. Now, there are minimum requirements, but it's a no-brainer. If you can qualify for a program like this, and you can have more than one of these, and there are certain guidelines available, you can yield 60% to 100% more money than if you were to invest on your own. And it's only an initial 5-year commitment for you in order to be able to do that. And believe it or not, it's very similar to a mortgage concept, to a mortgage. So it's a leveraged retirement plan. And I happen to be affiliated with NIW, who is the creator of the Kaizen plan. And it's their own plan. It's unique. It's been approved. It's tried and true. And because it applies to us in our industry, I specifically sought certification for it, and would be happy to share information about it with you. In fact, you can click or travel to that link at the bottom of this slide to learn more about it. And you can even reach out to me as well. But this gives you an opportunity to stash away $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year if you're in a position to be able to do that. Because I mentioned it's got an income qualifier for the first 5 years. The next 5 years, the bank will match that, plus themselves cover the extra. And in the last 5 years, the money is simply spent growing. And then once the bank is paid back, just like, again, we borrow money to buy a home. Once the bank is paid back, your yield is 60% to 100% more. It includes a tremendous death benefit as well, typically $1 million plus, depending on the actual annual contribution for this first 5 years. And it's just that first 5-year commitment. So if you're looking to speed up wealth, make up for lost time, let me go backwards, make up for lost time, or if you happen to find yourself in a great position where you're making a substantial income and you're looking for all of the different ways that you can have that money work for you more than you work for it, let me know. This is a tremendous program. And again, even take a look at that link, a tremendous program for allowing us to speed up that wealth creation. Removing investment risks. As we get older, we become more risk adverse or averse. When we're younger, we're less concerned about risk. One, we believe we'll live forever. Two, we're looking down the road thinking, oh, I've got another 40, 45 years before retirement, depending on when you start, right? So 40, 45 years to retirement. Well, now we're in our 50s and we're less interested in risk. We would rather preserve the whatever gains that we realized to now and preserve it so that it's protected, eliminated from any future potential downside. And so insurance has some great options, especially cash value insurance products out there, more index universal life, IULs, as opposed to whole life. But there are some great products out there if you're willing to move away from your traditional investment vehicles and utilize these non-security based products. You can grow, you take advantage of compound growth, and you can also take advantage of loans, tax-free loans, lifetime income, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, it's just tremendous what the proper planning and can do for you and how these tools can actually help you. Take full advantage of tax-free compound growth and tax-free withdrawals. It's just tremendous opportunities. And I mentioned taxes a couple of different times, and it's because it's a real thing for us. If you are expecting $100,000 a year to live on, as an example, or maybe your lifestyle wants more, 150, 200,000 a year or less, whatever it is, we can't discount the impact of taxes and what the potential future tax environment could look like. So the question always comes down to, will our retirement dollars be able to overcome tax increases? If I need $50,000 or $75,000, $100,000 a year, and my current investments are taxable, then how much extra money do I need to pull out each year to cover the taxes and still have the money that I need to be able to live in my current lifestyle? Can your retirement dollars grow without being taxed each year? Most of your traditional tax vehicles, the growth is simply tax deferred. And the best way to do that, quite honestly, is to start moving money out of your qualified plans. And so what a qualified plan is versus a non-qualified plan is simply that it's qualified for taxation. So if you put tax deferred dollars away in an IRA, 401k, your SEP, whatever it is, your solo, unless you go solo Roth, if you put it away in your tax deferred programs, they're all qualified programs, which means when the money comes out, all of that money is qualified to be taxed. And if you think about it, we could pay taxes today at 22%, say on average. If you push your numbers up there, you might be a little bit a higher tax bracket, but that's paying on that now, and then just maybe pay on the tax deferred amount when you take that out in the future, whatever that is, as opposed to not paying on that money now and then pay on all of the money that you take out at the tax deferred amount. And if it goes to your heirs, of course, we'll have tax obligations too. So we'll want to move money out of qualified programs, and we'll want to do it in a systematic way. You just can't simply pull it out without increasing the potential taxation obligations now. So it would need to be strategic. We want to leverage a combination of traditional and non-traditional vehicles like the Roth IRA and cash value life insurance to really help accomplish this and reduce your overall tax obligation, reduces that provisional income I mentioned earlier, which counts against your Social Security for taxation. And so we want to control that provisional income and protect even our Social Security benefit. So protect money from future taxes. The best way to do that is to really plan ahead and to set up a systematic approach to moving the money out of qualified plans into non-qualified and tax-free vehicles for you. And couple here, Roth IRA has some limitations, but it's tax-free. Cash value life insurance might be a better option for you. Anything that you want to look at, you want to look at reducing that provisional income and still being able to maintain your lifestyle. Lifetime income, I mentioned most folks are concerned about not about outliving their retirement income, and because of that, they tend to make an awful lot of sacrifices, and they just don't live the way that they ought to live. We're in our, when we get that point in our life, we want to be able to enjoy the fruits of our labor and not have to become a shut-in or sacrifice just to make sure that we don't, that we still have money. So the reality is that most folks start working between 65 and 70 years old. So we might think we'll work after 70, but the numbers don't show that. Most will not be able to live on Social Security alone. Take a look at your SSA account. You'll realize that if you're getting a couple $1,000s a month or so, that's not enough to live on, especially in the DC metro area. Most unable to save enough to maintain the lifestyle indefinitely. The numbers keep changing. We're looking at 25 times your estimated annual income. Needing to grow 3 to 5% per year is about what you need to have saved. And that's assuming you're going to be able to live on about 3 to 5% or slightly more to keep from spending all that money down too quickly. Lifetime income riders on your life insurance products can act, like cash value life insurance and annuities, actually allow you to maintain that income and not outlive it. And many of those riders, even if the value of that insurance depletes to zero, will continue to pay even if, as long as you're still alive. So with the right riders out there, right products, you won't have to worry about outliving your income. So great option, and to help put worries behind you. I mentioned recruiting and retaining top talent. I mentioned before that Kaizen program earlier is a great way for us to be able to make up for lost time when it comes to investing and being able to prepare for our retirement. Well, it's also a tremendous product for recruiting and retaining top talent. So, and it may even be far cheaper and better for you in the long run anyways. So most companies are going to offer better commission splits, bonuses, a team car. They might get a free office. They might receive help like an assistant or a marketer or a transaction coordinator. They might even receive your typical qualified retirement plan. As I mentioned before, there are retirement plan options for the self-employed and your small businesses. So there are things that traditionally folks are going to be able to do, or that they'll use to recruit talent. Why don't you set yourself apart? If you're able to, set them up with a Trizen plan, which is the Kaizen version of that. Offers rapid cash value accumulation for them with the death benefit protection. You can set that up contractually for them, and gives them access to tax-free distributions. It can provide cash in the event that's a chronic or terminal illness. So these are, again, just thinking outside of the box, getting away from that non-traditional, or getting away from the traditional approach. It could be a great product for you to be able to recruit and retain. So if you're looking at being able to also protect you and your family and your business from losses, one way is to make sure that when you do find those people worth holding on to, and those people that are significant and the growth and development of the company, is to utilize a program like that to be able to really retain them, show that you value them. The long-term cost to you would likely be less significant, but the impact to them would be greater and would be more appreciated. So I covered a lot of information. As I mentioned, I tried to keep this from being too long. I did talk about shielding yourself from the unexpected. A trust, revocable trust, is the best way to do that, and using Estate Docs Pro is a 21st century solution for that. Very cost effective, and it's available 24/7, secure, and it's great, and it's valid in all 50 states. Eliminate debt. There are some non-traditional approaches that allow you to not just eliminate the debt, but also to grow begin growing your assets, growing your retirement at the same time without any more additional costs, more than you're already spending. So tremendous programs out there. Protect from loss of income. Got to look at the right insurance products out there that help protect you and your family in the event of a injury or illness or death. Excuse me. Maximize commissions to speed up wealth creation. I highly recommend you take a look at that link I provided on the page for the Kaizen product. There are some requirements you do have to financially require, and you do have to require with regards to health, because it is life insurance, but it's a tremendous program. It leverages almost 75%. If you think about it, you're putting in about 25% of the 100% investment, and you're gonna benefit from the gains on that, much like folks do when they purchase a home. And it'll be far better than you'd be able to do on your own. It's a great program and allows us to make up for lost time or simply to speed up. Even if you're doing great now and you want to speed up and retire early, it'd be a fantastic solution for that. In the event that something were to happen, tremendous benefits included with that as well. Talked about strategies to remove investment risk. Largely, you want to look at a number of factors, a number of products and services that essentially move your money out of the high risk, high reward, and even your qualified investment strategies. So you want to be, if invested in the stock market, those gains are going to be capital gains when you sell those products, unless they're in a qualified plan, then that'll be tax deferred, any gains that you realize. But again, those are all taxable at whatever the rate is that you end up withdrawing that money, bringing that money out. And if you're under 59.5, there's going to be a 10% penalty. So you want to remove your investment risk. You want to protect your money from future taxes, move those into tax-free programs and other programs that allow you to use that money tax-free. And obtain lifetime income insurance products, cash value insurance products in particular. Your whole life, your IULs are really your better products today, your index universal life products. Great way of being able to grow your wealth without the risk of, because the money does not actually go into the stock market, and at the same time be able to and annuities fall in that same category, and be able to also take advantage of the life insurance company's ability to provide a lifetime income. And then that Kaizen or the Trizen, which is the partner for that program, it's an NIW proprietary product. Very few folks are actually qualified to be able to sell it, which is why I worked hard to be able to do that, because it's applicable to us. Is not only it's a great program for you individually, but can also be a great program for recruiting and retaining top talent. So I mentioned LEAP early on. So how I help is basically LEAP is simply learn and apply. I try to make it easy for us to remember. Analyze current debt, income, and investment capabilities. Review short, medium, and long-term strategies and products for achieving those financial goals, and end up creating a written retirement income plan for you. And then the apply part is I'll work with you in order to implement those strategies, and together we'll monitor progress and we'll readjust as needed. So how does that really work? It's just 3 steps. I'll get together with you. We can either do it in person or via virtually, if that's easier for you, to gather data in order to be able to provide you with a customized analysis of exactly where you are and how and where we see potential pitfalls, based on your plans for retirement age, retirement spend down, et cetera, et cetera. I will discuss and decide on conservative estimates specific to your personal situation with you. And I'll be there to help guide you anytime you have questions or concerns now and into the future. Essentially, there we go. So I'm not sure why I broke it up that way, but essentially the written retirement plan does similar what you see here on the screen. We capture as best, we capture everything that you have, your investments, your savings, your debt obligations, et cetera. And we look to provide a strategy. We identify exactly what categories they are, low risk, high risk, And then we look to develop a plan for you that shifts that. So you can see just even in this simple chart, we had 21%, just under 22% low risk, 72% of that portfolio was at high risk. And based on our planning, we were able to make adjustments to that. So now they've got just 45% of that portfolio considered in the high risk category. And you'll have a portfolio, so you'll be able to view and monitor things along the way. So my offer to you is creating a financial plan that can be updated into the future. So it's good for today and updated in the future. Easy to understand analysis specific to your situation, addresses many of your financial concerns, gives you answers to important questions, can provide a sound strategy now and into the future, and of course, annual reviews just to help keep you on track. So for those of you that are interested, if you are ready, and I know you probably wouldn't be here if finances weren't a real concern for you, a real interest. There's so much more I could have covered. I've learned an awful lot. I've got a great team of folks. As I mentioned, $8 billion a year organization that I work with very closely, and a great team of folks. There's just an awful lot out there that we could be doing better, and we could find ourselves more in that 3% category, having and realizing that financial freedom and security that we desire, and be able to leave that legacy for a family that we desire as well, as opposed to being stuck in that 97% category, not knowing what our future will hold, and more than likely having to settle for macaroni and cheese. Not that I don't love mac and cheese, but mac and cheese every night, and cereal, and no vacations and things like that. That's not really the retirement that I'm looking for in the future. So I thank you very much for sitting through this with me. I hope I shared some information that's helpful. Does anybody have any questions?
I think some of them, or all of them, and I'll send you who attended, would like a copy of this presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be happy to send you a copy of the presentation. That'll be easier to see the links then as
Right.
well.
Otherwise, I can't use them. Plus, then your contact information, I think it's on there somewhere.
Yeah, I've got my contact information there in a couple of places.
Yeah, because the
so
important thing, Gary, is that they do need to meet with you individually, whether it be virtually or in person, because everybody we have found with this is everybody's unique. No two people are alike. So it is a very, very personal and individual plan versus one size fits all.
Oh yeah, absolutely right. The other thing is that most folks don't actually have a plan.
I can't hear you, Gary. You're stuck.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you now.
Oh, okay, that's weird. The other thing is that most folks don't actually have a plan, which is worse, or if they have a plan, it's outdated and their circumstances have changed. The things that they had invested in, they may have changed as well. And we're not getting any younger. Every day we skip, as I mentioned, we want to maximize, we want our money to work for us. And the only way to get that financial security, that financial freedom is through good, solid planning. And we have to analyze and determine where we are today, understand where we want to be in the future. And then we can map out through a plan and through regular follow-ups to make sure it's current, a plan in order to get there. So it requires a plan and it's very personal.
Okay, so are we all done then? Great.
Yeah.
Good job, Gary. I really enjoyed that.
Well, thank you very much, Cindy. And thank you everybody for attending. I'll definitely send out the presentation to the folks, Cindy, that you've sent to me.
Okay.
And I'm available. Any questions at all? Just so folks understand, there's no charge for my service. If I uncover anything that you subscribe or use through me, I'm compensated by the company. Your money stays your money. That was my purpose for staying independent and working with the individuals that I work with. I want your money to stay your money. It's all about you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And the Social Security class is August 10th.
Oh, it's a 10th. Okay.
It's a really good class too. We've done that before. It's from 10 to 11. I mean, it was eye-opening for me. I got my ducks in a row. I've got everything in a trust. I understand what's going on with Social Security. I know where everything is. I mean, it's just really amazing how much this has helped.
My jaw dropped when I first started learning some of these things. I
Mhm.
mean, literally, I was like, why didn't somebody introduce me to these things 20, 30 years earlier? And then with regard to Social Security, like my Social Security is taxable. Oh, wait, 50% of it counts towards taxing. So yeah, so my jaw dropped, and I've been grateful to be able to get in and learn it and connect with the right tools for it and be able to warn other people about it so they can prepare.
Right. Okay. Well, everybody have a good day and thanks, Gary.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Cindy.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.